Mr. Speaker, I therefore want to open my remarks by passing my profound, heartfelt condolences to all Kenyans who lost their lives, who were injured, and whose property was destroyed. Mr. Speaker, I specifically missed to sit in this House on Wednesday last week when I should have, because a woman who has been selling me fried groundnuts and oranges in Kakamega, Caroline Shiramba, was shot dead. She sells outside the office of the governor. Mr. Speaker, equally here in Nairobi, a young man from Malinya was shot dead. So these things have come very close. And for those who thought that this was something for a particular set of Kenyans, when I went to visit the victims at the General Hospital in Kakamega, one of the victims was the son of one of my chiefs. He was at the forefront in Kakamega. You saw, even the son of the Attorney General of Kenya was also involved. I saw the son of Honorable my brother Junjuri was involved. I particularly don't know where my children were. Probably they were also involved. The only thing that missed was that they were not captured on camera. Mr. Speaker, where are we? 4 things that are unprecedented have taken place. The first one is that for the first time in the history of this country, the president refused to assent to the finance bill. It is unprecedented. 2, Mr. Speaker, the youth did what they did. Some people call it inversion of parliament. Others call it desegregation of parliament. I don't know what to call it. I can only say they did what they did. Mr. Speaker, never in the history of the 4 presidents we have had in this country have they ever contemplated on deploying the military the way we did. Mr. Speaker, finally, you saw across the whole country members of the public torching homes and properties of elected leaders. We are indeed in a bad place, and therefore, as we say in our community, when you are mourning, you don't mourn with shame. We must speak to it, as I wish to do now. Mr. Speaker, we are where we are today because Kenyans hate and are angry with the ongoings in the country. And if we don't speak to them and take action, we will go nowhere. It was never the finance bill. It was simply that the finance bill was a trigger. Why? Because public servants, led by ministers, are very, Mr. Speaker, corrupt. And people hate this, and people are angry. Yesterday, colleagues, I was called by a minister whose name I don't wish to bring on the floor because it's not necessary. And he was very angry with me for the position that I have taken, especially over the weekend in Nabaholo, over corruption in the cabinet. He told me very many strong and bad things. Because people who the other day we were working with here want to think because the Constitution has given them a different office as opposed to the offices as ourselves we have been given, they are therefore in high heaven. They should be worshipped. Nobody should mention their name, even when they are wrong. Mr. Speaker, people are angry and hate public servants because of our own making. The public display of wealth and opulence, unless members of the public can quickly see where you've gotten it, they will not be happy. Over the weekend, I was speaking of a young member of parliament from my community who has bought a helicopter. And I know him very well. I wish him well to continue accumulating wealth. I wish him well to continue accumulating wealth. But please, I'm asking the president to ask himself, how can the membership of an MP to a committee of parliament be the basis for him to be able to afford some of the things that are not affordable? Honorable Didmus Barasa, take it easy. Those helicopters will not change your life. Mr. Speaker, I equally offended somebody whose name I never mentioned in Kakamega over the weekend about this issue of opulence. I just wondered, how would an MP be able to donate 20 million shillings at a harambe? He was very offended. In another function, I saw a minister of this government carrying a white bag, on the back like this, and started announcing how many millions are in that bag. Said, moja, mbili. No. Mr. Speaker, if we don't refuse these things, people like Murkomen will think that they are giving us their money. It's not their money. Those are proceeds of corruption. This House is saying no. Because of that anger, look at what our children did. Mr. Speaker, people are angry and hate us as leadership because every weekend, helicopters, they crisscross the skies, all of them going to functions where these millions are being dished. Mr. Speaker, the fuel guzzlers that we drive, I know if you go to this parking, Mr. Speaker, you can see the difference between the vehicle four-wheel drive driven by your senators compared to those ones driven by members of the National Assembly. In the parking of the Senate, you see Prados. But in the parking of the National Assembly, you see high-end vehicles that sometimes you only see. And why, Mr. Speaker? Because of an unconstitutional fund called CDF. That unconstitutional fund, the courts made a pronouncement that it was unconstitutional and illegal. How did we respond as Parliament? The National Assembly, without blinking an eye, went and exercised legislative impunity by twisting the act so as to be allowed to continue with that unconstitutional, illegal process. Mr. Speaker, as I speak to these guzzlers, you have seen colleagues. You are there struggling to rush to this Senate, then an MP, then a Secretary General of a political party comes with chase cars, his vehicle having the national flags with a siren, and the police does not arrest those people. The law is very clear on who should actually fly the national flag. The law should be very clear on whose convoy should be cleared with sirens. This is the impunity that is making our young people to turn against us. Mr. Speaker, I want to celebrate the President for the remark he made on Sunday during the interview that he was fielding questions. I did not support the fact that the President was fielding questions. I did not. Because I know that the President has people who are supposed to have fielded those questions. As like the leader of the majority was saying, the responses to security that the President was doing should either have been done by regular briefs by the IG or by Professor Kidura Kindiki. What was the President being put there, being humiliated by the people of the media? But I celebrate him for accepting that we have wasteful expenditure in several offices in this country. Professor respected Githu Muigai gave, while in office, a legal advisory opinion on something called the Office of the First Lady. I urge you, colleagues, to go and read that opinion. He convinced me, and those who will read it after me, that the issue of First Lady is actually foreign to our Constitution. As if it's not enough, we had not only have the office of the First Lady, wife of the President, gobbling millions of shillings, we also have another one for the office of the wife of the Deputy President, another one for the office of the wife of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, another one for the office of the governors. I always say, God bless Kenya. If I had that ambition, then if I were to ascend to one of these offices that people think they should have those wives as first ladies, you would shake my family. Who will be my wife? Who will be the first lady? Will be my first wife, my second wife, my third? Which one? Those are private family issues that should never be brought in public. I am a student of Michael Kijana Wamalwa. I am a student of George Welime Captain. I never saw Wamalwa's wife or George Welime's Captain's wife address any function, not in Luhyaland, not in their constituencies, nowhere else. Their purpose was to make sure that visitors have eaten. What became of husbands in this country? Mr. Speaker, very quickly, because the light is now on, people are angry and hate us because of impunity. The impunity you are seeing, that we have a director of public prosecutions who, from Monday to Friday, sits scheming on which language and which law to use so as to help people who are politically correct, criminals who have court cases, to be released. I don't know if that is why. I don't know if that is why we separated the office of the Attorney General from the office of the Director of Public Prosecution and made it an independent office. Not only from Kakamega, but the DPP is my sister's son. from Malinya there. That it's not necessary. Let criminals who have stolen property, and you know them, go through the due process. If it was working, some of the ministers in office today would not be ministers. They became ministers because a corrupt parliament allowed them to become ministers, and then the DPP followed it up by withdrawing their cases. Mr. Speaker, impunity of tribalism. Leader of the majority, you have said it. Where will the children from the tribes where the president does not come from, where deputy president does not come from, where the prime cabinet secretary does not come from, how will they get jobs? Mr. Speaker, they hate us because of the impunity of nepotism. I know of a cabinet secretary who has employed in his office 2 sons of, yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the impunity, shooting members of the public dead. And they are set free. And we say we are living in a country of rule of law. Mr. Speaker, there is anger and hatred because the government is unable to fix this monster called CBC system. That system has killed free primary education. That system has destroyed the quality of education. For many years, my children have been doing the exam at Malinya Primary School, all of them. It's only right now that for the first time, my daughter, Sonia Inuni Khalwale, is now in class 7 junior secondary in a private school, because at Malinya Primary School, where we all went to, all my children and myself, it has collapsed. There are 2 teachers in a class of 150 teaching our children of the poor. So there's no learning going on, colleagues. Mr. Speaker, there is anger and hatred because of the insensitivity of this parliament. We are so insensitive that when the issue of housing levy was raised, we did not respond critically. Allow me just to conclude. Mr. Speaker, can I?
Give Senator Boni further 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the housing levy, I was shocked. We were addressed by the CS National Treasury, who told us that they were contemplating investing the money collected from the housing levy into treasury bills, meaning that we got money from members of the public and we are unable to absorb it. It therefore teaches me that we should have collected less to meet our capacity to absorb, instead of wiping people's pay slips, and now we are unable to use that money. Mr. Speaker, finally, things to do. Mr. President, dissolve cabinet, reconstitute it. Mr. President, disband officers outside the Constitution, including CAS, including Prime Cabinet Secretary. It is not in the Constitution of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, including officers of First Ladies, including, Mr. Speaker, advisors. If advisors are useful, then what David Ndii is doing is not advice, is misadvice. Mr. Speaker, the President should quickly restructure the security organs by firing people, the IG included. And finally, but not least, all the Sky teams must be grounded. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm on.